Welcome. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Um, it's good to have you all here, and I'm sure more will gather in the next few minutes. Um, Today we are doing a live, sort of like a question and answer talk about mystical topics of any kind, really. You can ask any questions you want. So if you have questions, go ahead and post them. Um, Thanks. You love the 3D effects. Thanks. It's actually just like an open video, but then I noticed it like jumped in the beginning there, like it was on, off, on, off. Whatever. It's meant to just like kind of give me a second to push live everywhere and get everything going. Um, and so what I want to say is if you're in the group, in the mediums group or um next level stuff with countdown. Well, I am very tech savvy actually. It's in my astrology chart. It's funny that you say that cuz it's pretty much one of my strengths, right? So it's sort of like it's just something that I'm good at. Um And, I like technology, frankly. I think technology is totally awesome. Um, some people are afraid of it, some people are intimidated by it, but for me, I just think it's pretty cool. But that's my experience. So it looks like there's like two different events happening in the mediums group. So if you're in the mediums group, um I guess what I could do is just post it in the other group. But so I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your questions. I'll try to answer them. If you're in one of those two groups, like the mediums group or mystical connections, I probably won't see your name. Okay. If you're on my page, I can see your name. If you're, yeah, it's just some sort of Facebook thing. So yeah. So anyway, just FYI. Um, that's the only thing I don't like about doing it this way. But what's really great about it is that I can broadcast to numerous channels all at the same time, including YouTube. So if you haven't caught my YouTube page, please catch it. I am enjoying YouTube and I do plan to do more on there. If you don't follow my YouTube page yet, please make sure you check it out. You can just go to my website, divineandrogen.com, and you can pretty much find everything you need to know about me. Um, and today I'm hoping to answer some questions. So put your questions in the chat, put your questions in the comments. Make sure, the question can be about anything you want it to be about. Okay. It can be anything about mysticism or mediumship or, well, just about anything. Okay. So just let me know what uh you know what calls to you, what questions you might have. I have quite a bit of experience. I have experience with um, a variety of things, everything from witchcraft to psychic abilities to mediumship. I've been a medium for a very, very long time. I first realized I was a medium, well, so when I was a kid, there was like these old abandoned houses, and my friends would want to go into the scary haunted house, right? And I'd be like, okay, let's go. And I would go in and banish spirits and communicate with them, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, honestly, I really didn't know what I was doing. Okay. Um, and there were spirits in my house, and I would communicate with them, but I didn't really know what I was doing. Okay. I even messed with a Ouija board, and those things are just, yeah. And so then, uh, um, and then, and then later on, I studied mediumship in my early 20s. And did medium readings back then. I wasn't paid for them at the time, but I did them. And then I slowly started to gain confidence enough to do readings for other people. And eventually I started doing them professionally. And I often do like seance type things that are a lot of, and I do them live even in this group that I'm doing one on Sunday. So maybe, if you haven't caught that yet, I like to do them in Zoom because it's just easier if everybody's energy is in one space. Do our spirit guides know what our future will be? Vicky Vaughn asked this. Yeah, they do. How much they reveal to you is variable. If they think it would be helpful for you to know, they'll inform you. If you ask, they might inform you of more. Um, I think your spirit guides know exactly what's laid out for you, but keep in mind that your entire life is not like fate. It's not like every inch of your life is planned out. You have what we call free will. So it has a lot to do with your choices. So the choices that you make in life could vary the outcomes or what things become available to you. For instance, if you don't go to college, you're probably not going to have opportunities to have jobs that require a college education, right? So, but you could have other opportunities and other ways to be successful in life. Okay. So, spirit guides, yes, they know what your future will be. If you're coming up on something, yes, they'll usually tell you if you ask, but you probably will need to ask. That's kind of the trick there. I think that's the trick with spirit guides is you gotta ask, you gotta engage with them. You have to ask for help too, by the way. Um, Hi Hollis, the spirit forgot about us once they've passed. My spirit did not come to visit me my husband still did not come to visit me up to this hour, and I miss him badly. Well, I think Jen, and then you're asking me if I have messages from him. Well, that would be a reading. You can schedule one of those at my website. A lot of times, your own self-doubt, your grief is what's blocking you recognizing that they're coming through to you. So I just want to mention that. So this is a question I'm answering right now. They don't forget about you. No, they're connected to you. They're forever your spirit guide. They're with you all the time. They're always connected to you. So, no, that's not true, Jen. They don't ever forget about you. He's probably trying to contact you, but your grief is probably super heavy, and that's very normal. What you're going through is very normal. It just takes a little bit of training, some awareness, and some coaching to help you understand. If you just do some mediumship coaching with me, just like 1 or 2 meetings, or you can buy a package of a 4-pack, I'll try to help coach you so that you understand that he's connecting with you. If you want a reading, that's a different story. You can schedule a reading with me. Okay. All right. So. All right, so Joe Jennifer said, I was wondering what is the difference between spirit guides and angels and CN our loved ones be and can our loved ones be both? Um Hey Jen, Joe Jennifer. Well, okay, so I think everybody has like different words for different things. When I'm talking about them, I would say that your loved ones are often your spirit guides. Like when someone you love passes on, they kind of become your spirit guide to help guide you in life. And that's just kind of like the way they are. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to help guide you. And because it's in everyone, we're all evolving to be better humans, okay? And so they want to help support you becoming a better you becoming a better human being. So they're going to try to guide you in the direction that would be in your best interest. Okay? Angels, when I talk about angels, I'm usually referring to enlightened beings. These are usually babies or children that have been miscarried or something like that. Okay? Yeah. They're either babies that have been miscarried or children that have passed before puberty or aborted children. These all become angels upon death immediately. And then sometimes some people live such an enlightened life that they also become angels upon death. And so angels are usually enlightened beings. Okay? So and sometimes your loved ones can just appear as a spirit to you. But sometimes, a lot of times, they also become guides, and at least to some degree, okay? And they might just guide portions of your life that they were most connected to, or that they were very good at, or like if someone takes their own life, for instance, and then they're on the other side, they might then sort of help connect to your mental health or anyone else's in your families or soul circles mental health. Okay? All right. All right. So, all right, Joe Jennifer. Somebody commented, like that movie Sliding Doors, she reached the same signpost during her life, but gets there different ways depending if she missed the subway doors or not. Yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like we all have, like, our life is not like this is the path. I mean, there are some things like that in people's lives. There are some really strong destinies in your life. You would find them in your astrology chart. Okay? That's why I do astrology readings. Astrology chart is essentially the map to your life. If you were driving across the country, how many times would you look at the map? Great. Most of you haven't even looked at it. So you might want to check in there. Okay. Someone said, I know this might sound silly, which I don't know much about this. When you communicate with a spirit, how do you see them, or do they show you signs, symbols, letters? Yes, it makes sense. You're asking about mediumship. That's fine. Most of the time, it depends on the medium. Some of us get more feeling or more, we don't hear them like the way you're hearing me right now. It's more like we hear it in our mind's eye, or we see signs in our mind's eye, or we feel things that feel a little different. Sometimes people get letters. Sometimes people get symbols. I often get symbology. Um, and it really depends on how you develop, and what your strengths are, which would be in your astrology chart, um, and how you'll develop, how it'll come through for you. And so I think that's why when I do mediumship coaching, that's why I look at your astrology chart so that we can tell how it'll probably come through for you. Will it be clairsentience will be stronger? Most of us have all the clairs actually. And I find that you can develop all of the clairs if you want. It's just that some will be more natural or stronger than others. Okay. And all of us have the ability to speak to at least our spirit guides and our loved ones on the other side. Okay? All of us at least have that ability. If nothing else, you have that. Um yeah. Yeah, grief lowers your vibration. That's right. It does. Yes, your son is your spirit guide. What are your thoughts on marriage after a spouse passes away? Well, I think there's a couple of things here. So, first of all, most people that take wedding vows, in the vows, it specifically says, until death do us part. Does that mean the person that's passed on the other side never wants to speak to you again? Probably not. Um, does it mean that you can't have a relationship that goes beyond death? No. Can you connect with people on the other side? Like your let's say your husband or your wife on the other side, and maybe have intimacy with them? Absolutely. Um, especially if you learn to and you develop that. Yeah, absolutely. You can totally connect with people on the other side and develop a relationship with them. I mean, frankly, I have interesting relationships with the people that have passed over. They're not my spouses or whatever, but I don't think it matters if it's your spouse or your parent or your brother or your friend or someone you knew. Um, they're capable of having a relationship with you that's really special. Um, yeah, and it's just super special. Okay. So, don't yes. Does the marriage still exist? Yeah, if you wanted to. Yeah. And I think it's going to mean more to you than the person on the other side, just because the person on the other side is no longer human. So they're just the soul that is connected to you. And most people that marry people have a soul connection. There's a soul reason you're married to that person, just by the way. Even if it didn't go well, even if it ended messy. Yeah, y'all are just teaching each other something. I would agree that your son is probably an archangel and probably your guide. You got goosebumps. You know what goosebumps mean for me as a medium? Goosebumps mean yes, you're on the right track. This is correct. It's a confirmation. hmm Do I believe in karma? Oh, you damn right I do. Um, I'm actually very Buddhist. So I believe in a lot of Buddhist stuff. I wouldn't say that I'm a Buddhist. Maybe I am, at least partially. I'd say I'm New Thought. Okay, but I believe in a lot of the Buddhist philosophies. Um, so karma, I believe karma comes through in this lifetime and past lifetimes, and you do carry it on to future lifetimes. I also think it affects your soul and your experience when you pass. I do believe in enlightenment, and I do believe that we can achieve enlightenment. Um, I mostly agree with the Tibetan Book of the Dead, mostly. Okay. You can listen to the Tibetan Book of the Dead in audio version. You might find it interesting. It's very much about like what happens after you die. Um, it's very detailed in the realms and all of that. Um, most of those, I don't not believe in them. I'm sure that could be what happens. It could very well be what happens. And I also think that it's probably a little bit more complicated than that. Especially in that it might depend on the karmic. Like, the Tibetan Book of the Dead was mostly written for Tibetan monks. So they probably have awesome karma. But what happens when someone like takes their own life or is a murderer or something like that? That's fairly bad karma. Well, I think something a little different happens. Okay. So, but they still on the other side. They're not punished. I just think karmically they have to carry that through to another lifetime. I also think your soul splits when you kill somebody. Okay. Um, Telepathy for me, mind's eye images and feelings. For example, today I felt my head was underwater. Turns out the spirit was a beautiful child. Most of his brain has water. Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, images and feelings. That sounds like you're pretty spot on. Keep practicing. You're doing a great job. Um, you know, so sounds like you're doing wonderful work. Beautiful work. Okay, I have a weird question. Oh, I love it. I'm excited. Can you use astrology to determine to where you should live, or what would you suggest? Yes, you can. It's called relocation astrology. I guess I'm asking, can your soul be connected to a different area? Yes, that's probably in your chart. Yes. Um, yeah, so in your chart, how come it didn't show the whole thing, huh? I'm gonna have to read the rest of it. Um, I guess I'm asking, can your soul be connected to a different area than where you're currently living? So you feel like you're called to live in a different state, for example, even if you've never been there. For years, I keep feeling like I need to leave Washington and go to North Carolina. I can't explain it or why I keep circling back to it, but I keep talking myself out of moving. Okay, well, knock it off. Don't do that. Don't gaslight yourself. Um, why do we gaslight ourselves? Anyway, in your astrology chart, I'll tell you what, come get an astrology reading, and I bet you it's in your chart. I can almost guarantee it's in your chart. I had the feeling that I had to move to the West Coast. And here's an interesting thing. Early on in life, when I was young, I always wanted to live in California. I have no idea why. I just wanted to live in California. And then somewhere in my 20s, I was like, in early 30s, I was like, maybe I want to live in Massachusetts. Maybe I should live in Massachusetts. Maybe I should move to Massachusetts. And then as I started to get into my 30s, later on in my 30s, I was like, I think I want to live in Colorado. Check it out. Look at all the green in Colorado. I think I should live in Colorado. And I finally got my shit together and got to Colorado. Okay. And and before I got to Colorado, right before when I was thinking about possibly moving to Colorado, I met this girl, this woman at an event in New York, actually. And she, I used to live on the East Coast, and she was really powerful, and I just couldn't help my attraction to her. I had never felt anything like that before, and I still to this day haven't felt anything like that before. And I couldn't figure it out. Why was I so attracted to this woman? And la la la. And I did her astrology chart, and I was like, oh my god, we are very compatible. Okay, this is very strange. And the closer I looked at her chart, the more I realized we were kind of destined. My Saturn is on her moon, for instance. And I was like, wow, this is really strange because her moon is part of what we call a yod, which is a destiny she can't help. It's going to happen one way or another. And my Saturn is right on top of there. So it's almost like pointing to that. It's kind of a weird thing. And come to find out, when I got to know her, first of all, I moved to Colorado to be with her. Okay, and here I am. And I also moved to Colorado for other reasons, okay? But I really did want to live in Colorado. And I moved to Colorado and I got to be with her. And turns out, first of all, she grew up in California. What? And then for a while, about when I was in my 20s, she lived in Massachusetts. And then she moved to Colorado for work. So you should not ignore those calls. So if you want to live in North Carolina, you better get your butt moving. Okay? Because something's there waiting for you. I don't know what it is. It could be work. It could be a relationship. It could be something else to do with your destiny. So check it out. Okay? And now I feel like I have to get to New Zealand. So, there's other, and I have to see the world. So, yeah. So there you go. There's a little story for you. So don't talk yourself out of moving anymore. Knock it off. Don't do that. Okay? Okay. Someone said, can you tell what is stronger powers? I can tell what is more dominant in your astrology chart, whether you're more intuitive or if you're more psychic, like visionary. Okay. I can tell how it will come through, and yeah, I can tell which one will be stronger in your chart. Okay. Can a spirit that I never met in life guide me? For example, yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. What do you think happens to little kids? They have to have a spirit guide. No one's ever died that they know, because they've only been alive for like a year or two, right? So they need spirit guides too. And usually it is people they don't know. And your grandparent will remain a spirit guide. So let's just say it's a grandparent that you never met that passed before you were born. They'll still guide you. But then as other people pass that did know you in life, they might kind of, like your grandparent might kind of fade or only come up for certain subjects, certain times, certain moments. Okay? I find that different spirit guides take on different jobs. It's kind of a team effort. My daughter died in December, and now her husband, who had a hand in her death, has now been getting sick for what I'm considering his karma. Or honestly, it could also be just good old fashioned so what can also happen is if he knows he had a hand in that death, he could be stressing and having major anxiety, and that can make you sick. It could be his karma. Could just be that simple. But if he had a hand in someone's death, it's going to be much more than just getting sick this lifetime. Okay? But a lot of times people with mental health problems get sick. And if he had a hand in her death, he clearly has a mental health problem, right? So, excuse me, I have to drink a lot of water. And so, it could be his karma. It could be both. And getting sick, is often because of mental health, even if you don't have bad karma. So that's called epigenetics. You can look it up. It's a real science. Okay. Vicky says you're welcome in North Carolina, by the way. All right. I moved away from Colorado many times, but I have always been called back, like my soul somewhere somehow needs to be here. Maybe it does. Maybe there's something that hasn't happened yet. Sometimes I think that about me. Like when I think about leaving Colorado, I'm kind of like, yeah, I should. Maybe not. Maybe there's something something that's supposed to happen here that hasn't happened yet. So I do kind of get that feeling about myself here in Colorado. And sometimes I can be kind of like I can go faster than my life can go. So sometimes I need to just slow down. That's why I have a little turtle here on my altar. Tries to remind me, slow down. Okay. um Somebody said, I have odd apparitions at night. Last night I saw green sand buckets in a corner piled high. Then when I blinked, they disappeared. Then I saw a green glowing guitar in front of me. Well, that's interesting. That sounds like you might just be having visions. They say that it's easier to tap into that psychic energy like right before you fall asleep or right when you wake up, like that kind of in between state. So I wonder if that's what's going on. It could be a spirit guide trying to talk to you. Green sand buckets. Is it possible that spirit could be telling you, your spirit guides could be telling you to maybe save your money? Or do you play guitar? Do you have any connection to the guitar? Feels like those are symbolic of something. So, thank you so much for wishing me and my spouse happiness. The love of my life died 2 years ago, and now there's a guy at work that is his complete double. Looks, mannerism, clothes, his doppelganger, eh? To the point that it almost brings me to my knees. Are there reasons? Yeah, absolutely. I would want to look at their astrology charts, but that's just me. I'm an astrologer. So yeah, sure. Yeah, that it could just mean that he looks like him on purpose in order to draw you in so that you won't just stay hung up on the loss of your loved one a couple of years ago. So that way you would be able to move on. It might be sort of set up that way so that you don't feel stuck, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Your grandson is okay, I guarantee it. Nothing ever bad ever happens to spirits on the other side. That's a crock of shit. Don't believe it. Especially a child, especially a young person, even if they took their own life. He's perfectly okay, and he absolutely knows you love him. He can see this message now. He is here now because you're talking about him. Okay. Movement out of the corner of my eye. No one there. How do you know if they're friendly? Okay. Seeing movement out of the corner of your eye is very common. The trick is, here's the trick. When you see movement out of the corner of your eye, don't look. Don't do this. Don't do it. Instead, just stay focused on that and just see if there's any other movements and see what else you can sense. Okay? Friendly. This gets into a complicated topic. How do we know if they're friendly? It gets into a complicated topic because it's all about your personal vibration. So, first of all, a lot of spirits are like mirrors and they reflect you back to you. So if you're afraid, they may reflect fear or aggression back at you. Okay? Because fear is kind of like aggression. Okay? Think about what we do when we're afraid, right? So then there sometimes if you have inner depression and things like that, those things might be reflected back to you. But it's not, no spirit will actually hurt you. Okay? I mean, some people will teach that and believe it wholeheartedly. In my experience in 30 years, I've never seen a spirit hurt somebody. I've seen people believe spirits hurt them. But in the end, the spirit didn't do it. They did it to themselves because of their fear, because of their hesitation, because of their insert weird behavior here. Okay. Um, and I think we've all seen way too much Hollywood, way too much Hollywood. And Hollywood has tried to make it into a scary thing. And it's not a scary thing. It hasn't always been a scary thing. We've just made it a scary thing since Christianity has come into play. But before that, indigenous people all over the world spoke to the dead all the time. It was a regular practice. It was normal. It was not strange. Everybody did it, and everybody communicated, danced, and celebrated with the dead. It was not a weird thing. It has only become a scary thing with projected negative behavior on them since Christianity. Okay? So before Christianity, we didn't have this problem. Spirits on the other side are not here to hurt you. They love you and they're trying to guide you. Some spirits have their own agenda if they're connected to the earthly realms. But if you're able to communicate with them or get someone who can, you'll quickly find out that they're not here to hurt you. They're just here to, they have their own agenda, whatever that agenda is. Okay. And it just may not be in relation to yours. It may not be the same agenda you have, but their agenda isn't to come get you or take you down or hurt you. It's just not true. How many paranormal people do you see in the hospital? 0. None. Notice. Okay. All right. I like this question. Other than hiding in a cave, what can we do with Mercury retrograde? What a great question. So Mercury retrograde, I have a video on my YouTube page about it, but essentially Mercury retrograde, it probably means that you probably have strong Virgo or Gemini placements, okay? And if Mercury retrograde really drives you crazy. Because Mercury is the ruling planet of those two zodiac signs. When Mercury goes retrograde, it's a time to review. It's a time to review what's happening, edit, do it differently, change what you're doing. So if you know Mercury retrograde is about to happen, first of all, before it goes into shadow, which is about a week or so before it actually goes retrograde, you can look up the shadow periods online. Or you can listen to my astrology forecast that I do, and I'll tell you when it's going to go into shadow and how long it will be in shadow, and then post shadow as well. Shadow is just when it kind of goes over the area. So Mercury retrograde means it kind of, from our point of view here on Earth, it looks like Mercury's going backwards, but it's actually not. It just looks like it is. Okay, it's sort of like when you're in a car and something else is moving and it looks like you're going backwards, but you're not. Okay. So when Mercury, if you looked at it on the chart, when on an astrology chart, it kind of passes over a certain area and then goes back. And that area, when it's going across the area that it's going to go back on, we call that the shadow period. And then once it goes, and then it's, it's moved this way, then it's gone backwards, and then it's turned direct again. And that's the post shadow time. Okay. And so shadow is just like kind of a prep for Mercury retrograde. So before that happens, if you know it's happening, maybe a week or so before, you might want to take care of anything that might break. You might want to take care of backing up your computer or taking care of any technical communications. You might want to sign any contracts and stuff like that. Once Mercury goes retrograde, try not to sign contracts. Try to make sure you've already backed up your computer. Try not to do a whole lot of new changes unless you're editing something that you did way long before, and now you're like coming back to it and going, huh, maybe I should try this in a different way. And just be prepared that if you do start something new in a Mercury retrograde, that you'll probably have to do it again, or at least edit it or something. Okay. It may not be perfect, is what I'm saying. So just be prepared to review things and go over things. Okay. Or repeat yourself. Okay. Especially in communication. Okay. Very normal, very normal, very normal. Okay. Um, you can appreciate Mercury retrograde because it's a time to refine things, right? Including yourself. It's time to make sure things are working correctly. It's time to take, to edit that little project you're working on, or to make sure that is done correctly. Okay? Just try not to launch new things until it's out. But sometimes you have to, and it's meant to be that way. So just do it. If something comes up and you're like, I can't wait another 2 weeks, shit, just do it. Okay? And just know that you'll probably have to return to it sometime in the future. Okay? Um if anyone feels called to Washington, I have a beautiful house for sale in a small town. Beautiful. Is it on the coast? Um you do play guitar. So I'm wondering if you're supposed to spend more time playing guitar, if the spirit guide's trying to tell you to maybe um, play music in order to make money or something. I don't know. Something there. I have two nonverbal Hi, Alexandra. It's great to see you. I'm glad you're here. I have two nonverbal autistic boys, and I've learned that as children get older, the connection to the other side lessens. That's right. I was wondering if the connection would stay and not lessen sometimes. Sometimes autism is it sometimes depends on like what kind of autism, or um and autistic people tend to be fairly sensitive to things, regardless of what kind of autism it is. So yes, I would say yes. I also notice people that have Down syndrome are also still connected. So the easy answer to that is yes, absolutely. They are probably connected to the other side. And they could say and do all kinds of things to indicate that. Probably not say since they're nonverbal, but they may say it in their own way. Are our loved ones truly always beside us, even in times of despair when we can't feel them as well as we normally can? Do they truly hear us? Yes. It's just that simple. I believe that they're always with us. Some people might teach a little different, but I'm just going to say believe what serves you well. Okay. I wouldn't bother with beliefs that don't feel good. How's it serving you? No one can prove any of this. So, so what I would say to you is, if the belief serves you in a good way, then it's worth having. Okay? And yes, I believe that they're always with us all the time, especially in times of despair. And they come closer to us the more we need them. And the reason you can't feel them is because negative feelings block the third eye. Okay? I believe they can hear everything we're saying all the time, including right here, right now. Okay? They can just they're always with us, and they can always hear us. It's just kind of this is the way it is. Okay? Um I think there are spirit guides, and I think it's different on the other side. We like to think that it's very human like, but it's not, because they're no longer human. Think about it. They're a soul now. They're not a human. Right? So, they can hear us. They're with us all the time. They can be in more than one place at once. Um, yes. Yes. I think they're with us all the time. I have had nothing but evidence of that for the last 30 years. Spirit is comfort, not fearful. That's right. That's right. Um, I'm still to get connected with my mom. She died last January. I've been meditating and asking her to talk to me or show a sign, but I have talked to my daughter. Why do you think my mom won't visit me? I'm sure she's visiting you and you're just not aware of how. Um, have you done like a meditation to meet your mom specifically? Like a spirit guides meet your loved ones meditation? I'm sure she's trying to meet you and trying to send you signs, but you're just not recognizing it, or you're not hearing it, or you're blocking it, or you're dismissing it. I can almost guarantee it. We sit down and talk for 20 minutes. I can prove it to you. Okay? People say that all the time. Oh, but my loved one hasn't reached out to me, and then they come talk to me for 20 minutes and they walk away and go, "Oh, maybe they were. Oops." Okay? Question on dreams of deceased loved ones. Is that usually them trying to tell you something? Sometimes. Hmm. It seems death has followed my family the last few years, and I always seem to dream of someone who's passed right before someone else passed. Wait a minute. It seems death has followed my family the last few years, and I always seem to dream of someone who's passed right before someone else passed, but I can never hear them talking. Um, So, yeah, sometimes they can try to tell you something through a dream, especially if you don't make a regular habit of connecting with them. So, sometimes our ancestors will come through our dreams to tell us something, um, if we're not connecting with them in real life, or that's the best way for us to connect. Some people are better at connecting through their dreams. Um, and then it sounds like I can almost bet that Pluto's moving through your house of family. Pluto rules death, and just sometimes people have seasons of death. Um, it's not like punishment or anything, it's just a time for change. And remember, death is, I know we often see it as a horrifying thing, but in actuality, they've graduated. So, especially people that die of like regular things, not people that took their own life, but like people that have a stroke or have a heart attack or whatever. Um, a lot of times, they've graduated, and we fail to see that. We fail to see that they've graduated and it's now time for them to move on to a new body. We tend to see it as the end, and it is not the end. It is just a continuation. It's a change. Yes. It's a transition. Yes. Yes, they're not in your life in the way they were before, but now they're in a new way. There are different ways to see it. And so I'm wondering if your spirit guide might be trying to help you come to terms and to understand death in a deeper way. Okay? Um that sounds like what message is trying to come through to you on those dreams. Um they don't usually tell, sometimes they might tell you someone's about to die, especially like if you have something you have to say to that person or do or connect or whatever. They might. But for the most part, um, they might just be trying to say, um, they might just be trying to say something like, you know, um, trying to help you get deeper about death. Okay. Our culture really could work on our belief system around death. Okay. Um, Now we're Yvonne says, can you explain what a birth chart is? What information does it give us? Everything. It's your map to life, Yvonne. Your birth chart is where all the planets and stars are at the time of your birth, okay, in the sky, from the perspective of planet Earth. Um, and there's different types of astrology, but regardless, an astrology natal birth chart is your map to life. So if you were driving across the country, how many times would you look at the map? It will help you with things like your career, relationships, your personality, your personal challenges, your most intimate challenges, your public challenges, enemies, your family, your children, your grandchildren, the people you know, money, your personality, where you live, your home, your house, yeah, travel. Did I miss anything? I think that covers it. Your shadow work. Mhm. All that is in your astrology chart. You should check it at least once a year, if not 2 or 3 times a year. At least once a year. At least once a year, especially during major aspects. Like we just had a solar eclipse, right? That was probably a big deal, whether you noticed it or not. There was a lunar eclipse 2 weeks before that was probably tied into that. And then this week I do a weekly astrological forecast. This week, Uranus and Jupiter are conjunct, which will be some big surprises. Okay, so, but that could have been like leading up. It could have happened during the solar eclipse, and it could happen in the weeks to come. Okay, and it really will be changing your life. Do you do past life regression? Yes, I do. I call it Akashic Records. I mostly do like a meditation and help you go into meditation. And then I hope that you also get some visions of your past life. Some people don't, some people don't. Some people do, some people don't. Um, I usually also get some downloads during that moment, during that time, and I'll write them down, and then we'll come out of the meditation and then we'll talk about it. I usually invite my spouse when she can make it, and she plays an instrument called the handpan that really, really, really helps open the doors. The Akashic Records is an ancient belief system that everything that happens is filed away in these sort of library in a different dimension. That's, I guess, the best way to think about it on a short note. But that's the Akashic Records. I do Akashic Records readings. They're a lot of fun. Love to do that with you. It can be very enlightening. It can be very, very enlightening. Okay. You're welcome. I love doing these live videos. It's great to see you, Alexandra. I'm glad you agree with me, although I'm not sure what it is. Okay. That's what scares me. I'd love to believe I will hug my partner again someday when it's my time. You will. You will. You will hug your partner. Your everyone that's ever passed will greet you when it's your time. Ask any hospice nurse. Any hospice nurse will agree with me. They'll be like, "Oh yeah." Even if they don't believe in all the stuff I believe in, they'll still believe in that. In fact, they're scientifically studying it as to why I think it's like 95% of people, when they're sick and on their deathbed, they will at some point start talking to people that have passed, often like their mother and their father and whatnot, died years prior to where they are now. Um, they'll, and so it kind of is proof of another side. It's kind of proof of spirits and stuff like that. Isn't that interesting? So they're doing a scientific study on that. So that will absolutely happen to you. I wouldn't worry about it one bit. That's right, Eve. Spirits are no longer limited by time or space. My granddaughter is 2, and she lives with my daughter in. Okay, my granddaughter is 2, and she lives with my daughter in my parents' house. And my dad recently passed, and she just started saying she's playing with Papa. She probably is. Yep. Kids are naturally connected to the other side. Naturally, it's us that gaslights the adults in their life, gaslights them and tells them that it's their imagination, and then we wonder why mediums have a hard time believing in themselves when they become adults. All right. There are certain people who I have never had visit, but have had others who do connect. Have you found that those spirits who were devout in specific beliefs that prohibit mediumship may be resistant to connect with those on this side? Yes, I do. Eve, sometimes, like for instance, in the Jewish faith, um, they think that after a certain time you should no longer contact the dead because you're disrupting them. So, yes. But oftentimes, sometimes, interestingly, I also, it's just that they're a little bit more resistant. And sometimes Jewish parents just won't, sometimes they'll connect, but they'll say very little. Um, but sometimes, spirits will be like Christian or something. Um, and maybe they were strict, like evangelical Christians that don't believe in mediumship, and then they'll pass on to the other side, and then when they come through they'll say, I'm sorry. Ugh, I didn't yeah, I can't believe I believed in that. It's not true. And they'll actually apologize to the person getting the reading. So I guess it depends, on exactly what they didn't believe in. But I will say that people that are mediums, pagans, witches, psychics, when you bring them through, whew, man, they are strong. You can't ignore them. They're loud, and you can hear them. Okay. I've had people tell me not using medium to connect with my loved one often, as this will stop them to transition. If we're sad, also will make them miss us and not to transition. No, that's not true. It's just totally untrue. They're just trying to get you to stop being sad. Um, I don't know why they would tell you that connecting to a medium will stop them from oh, that's a very Jewish perspective. Um, but I don't think it's true. I've never actually experienced that. Um, most of the time, most of the time, if you're sad, you're just not going to receive their signs as loudly as someone that's not sad. That's all. You'll just block your third eye, which is very normal. Um, but the spirit will do what they have to do on the other side, regardless of what you do. What um what keeps a spirit like earthbound? Sometimes it's how they die, sometimes it's where they die. Some buildings and stuff are kind of funky, and spirits get caught in those buildings, but most of the time they have an agenda there, like they've made some commitment or something that they feel like they have to do. Um or they're not moving towards the light. They didn't. Sometimes I've met spirits on like city streets that didn't know that they were dead because they were shot. So then I have to like kind of inform them that they're dead and they should move on. Okay. So that's what stops people from transitioning, not your sadness. They're just trying to get you to stop feeling sad. Why mediums do that, and other people do that, is they want to fix it for you. And some people are very uncomfortable with sadness. And this is why it's important for you to see like a grief coach or a grief counselor or something. I'm a grief coach. Okay? So I can help you with that. Okay? So that would be what I suggest. I have some actual things that can help you, and I'm not going that you're not going to stop their transition. I dreamt of my grandpa who passed 10 years prior. Okay? I had never dreamt of him before. The next morning, I found out my uncle, his son, had a massive heart attack and died in his sleep at 67. But in the dream, I couldn't hear my grandpa talk. It was like matching an old movie with no sound. Interesting. Interesting. It you know, doesn't sound like you were supposed to know that he was going to die. Um, it might be trying to get you to think deeper about death. That dream sounds like it's trying to get you to go deeper about death and to see it on more than, like, to see it beyond what our average culture sees it as. Death is a much deeper subject than just losing the people you love and them ending their life here. And the silly idea that they, heaven and hell and all that, that's silly. They all go to the same place. It's more about their vibration and their karmic imprint um, on their souls. And so that's, death is so much deeper. Death is really deep. It has a lot to do with our impact. And when you die, when a person dies, they have to witness their impact. And that's really important, because then they realize and can sort of integrate their lessons that they learned here on Earth. This is very particularly important for people that committed suicide, that they witness their impact so that they can realize that they were actually loved. Okay. All right. Where do we go to book an astrology reading? It's actually right in the comments or right here at the bottom. See it? divineandrogen.com. See it right there at the bottom? divineandrogen.com. Just go to my website. I don't think I can actually... I actually can't reply directly to you because of the software I'm using. But you can just go to my website, divineandrogen.com. And you can also just search me on Google, Divine Androgen, Hollis Taylor, something like that. It'll come right up for you. You could just probably put Hollis Taylor Psychic and it would come right up. Okay. Where do you find your astrology chart? Well, you can get a free one at astro.com, but you probably won't be able to interpret it. You can get a reading from me and I'll give it to you. But that's the trick, is trying to interpret it, because an astrology chart, it has lots of symbols and stuff that a lot of people don't know what they mean. So if you want an astrology reading, you can book one at my website, or you can just Google my name, Hollis Taylor Psychic, and you'll find it. Or you can just go to that website right there, divineandrogen.com, and book an astrology reading. And I'll help you get started, get you off the ground. Sometimes I teach classes too about astrology. I teach other classes as well. I was trying to think about what class I should teach next. Hi, Patty Gallagher. You are very welcome. I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm glad I'm here to do this. Can you tell if my grandson is with someone? Yeah, when I do a mediumship reading, I'll be able to tell you if your grandson is with someone. I've taken a few hospice clients and it's 100% true. They have conversations, and I've always believed that they are truly there. Yes, they are, because they're being greeted. They're being prepped to move to the other side, eh? I've done death midwifery and hospice nursing for years. Do I believe in earthbound spirits? Yes. Can they connect with us in a way that so they're usually limited by the space that they're in. So the spirits that cross over on the other side are not limited by like what house you're in or where you're at. But a spirit that is earthbound is usually limited by where they're at. Okay. So in other words, they can't attach themselves to you and then follow you around for the rest of your life. And if someone suggests that, there's a couple of things that could be wrong. Either number one, they're trying to get money from you, or scam you, or they're schizophrenic. Okay. I just think schizophrenic. I don't think I'm not judging schizophrenic people. I'm just saying that schizophrenic people travel from dimension to dimension, and sometimes things get mixed up from dimension to dimension, and they're not always in, like, they'll think something that's happening in a different dimension is happening in this dimension, which kind of makes it look like a spirit's attached to you, but it's not. And so, yeah, so, okay. So someone tells you that, be careful, red flag, okay? But earthbound spirits are usually connected to a space. They're usually connected to a house, a hallway, a room, an outdoor place, okay? Like a cemetery or a road or a barn or something, okay? You kind of connect to them in the same way, but they're actually easier to connect with, actually, in my opinion. Yeah, I think they're easier to connect with. They're actually, but you can only connect with them in that space usually. Sometimes I can get them over the internet. Like if you're, let's say you have a haunted room, you connect on your phone with me in a Zoom reading, I might be able to connect that way. Sometimes I can, but it's kind of through you. So that's, so yeah. And you can connect with them, find out what their intention is. That's usually what you want to do, is you want to find out what their intention is, what they need, why they're there, why they're still connected, do they know they're dead? And then go from there. See if you can help them. A lot of times, sometimes they just don't know they're dead, and you gotta just tell them they're dead and tell them to move towards the light. I tell you what, that's like 50% of earthbound spirits. That's usually what's happened. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad that makes a lot of sense to you. This may not be part of all this. I saw a magnificent US UFO in 1982. It traveled right next to my car, very large, silent, and a row of lights. Is this connected to another dimension or with the spirit realm? Um, uh, that's kind of a hard question to answer. It's kind of yes to both, okay? I believe in aliens. Aliens usually are traveling with us, like that, and they're not really part of the spirit realm, but they are in a different dimension sometimes. It's just because they travel over so many universes. I think that they might change dimensions. Not all of them, but some of them. Um, uh, yeah, so it might depend. Yes, they're not really part of the spirit realm usually, but they might come to you the way your spirit guides do. If you are a Pleiadian or an Acturian, which are star seeds, if you're a star seed, they might want to communicate with you, so they might come through to you the same way your spirit guides do. But it's really like sort of like your alien spirit guide trying to say, "Hey, you're a star seed." Okay, so that might be what's going on there. Thank you to whoever shared my website, divineandrogen.com. I wish I could see who it was, but it's somebody in my group I know. My sign is Cancer. Is everyone in the same sign? Are all the traits the same? Not really. So that sounds like that's your sun sign. But what about your rising sign and your moon sign? Those are actually kind of more important, and they definitely make up who you are. So, yes, Cancer is the same, but it depends on what planet is there. And so it sounds like for you, the sun is there. But what about your rising sign? What about your moon sign? What about your Venus? What about your Mars? What about what's in the 8th house and the 2nd house and the 1st? Okay. It's way more complicated than your sun sign horoscope. Way, 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 way. So if you read the horoscope and you're like, I don't identify with any of that. It's probably because your rising sign is probably stronger, or your ruling planet, which is the moon. If you're a Cancer, the ruling planet is the moon. So where's the moon in your chart? You need to know. So it's way, way more complicated than your sun sign. And most of the time, our sun sign is who we're wanting to be and trying to be our whole life. Our rising sign is who we really are. And our moon sign is our emotional landscape. Okay. What are your feelings about devices that people who do paranormal investigations use, like a necrometer, things like that. I think they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I think they're kind of hilarious because I'm like, okay, they clearly need proof. So I think they're doing it because they need, like, they're looking for scientific proof of the spirit. I don't need proof. I believe. So for me, it's kind of a mute point. When I've worked with paranormal investigators, they'll be like, they'll say, "Oh, I think the spirit's in this room." And I'm like, "No shit, Sherlock." Okay, so I mean, it usually validates me sometimes. Um, um, I think it's them trying to create proof of a spirit or spirits in a certain space or place. And I think it's completely valid for them. Some people really get off on trying to prove it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just not my calling. Um, you know, some people need to do it, you know. Um, and thank goodness those people are doing it. It's very important. I worked with some paranormal people for a while. It's just not really my thing. I'd rather do medium readings and talk to y'all than or come clear your house. As an exorcist, I'm not really interested in coming in with a meter and telling you that the spirit is in this room. Like, I don't need a meter to tell me. But they do, and that's fine. And they're using it to help prove that the spirit is in this room, and that's fine. Sometimes those meters also picked up on emotional imprints, not spirits. And there's a huge difference. An emotional imprint is like something you might recognize as like somebody has like an argument in a room, and then you don't know it, but you come into the room and you feel like something just happened there, but you don't know what it was. And then later on, your friend tells you that they were arguing with their boyfriend in there, and you're like, oh, that's what I was sensing. Okay, and that's an emotional imprint. Okay, so that's kind of what that's all about. Okay, um, so yeah, so there's nothing wrong with the meters. It's definitely some people's path. They really get off on proving it, and I think they should. Do we all get to meet our loved ones who have passed once we pass? Yes, we do. Yep. Yep. You do. Yep. Um, but the understanding about that is that I've had people say to me, "Oh, so then I should just take my own life so I can go be with this such and such." That's not a good conclusion. I just want to say this out loud. When you take your own life, usually, yeah, you're greeted by your loved ones. But you don't get out of whatever. You have to repeat whatever happened. Spirit will usually make it a little bit easier for you on the next roundabout. But the other side lacks depth sometimes. Like, from what I understand, it lacks simple pleasures that we take for granted here as humans, like food, sex, pleasure. I don't, and I think, so we just need to be careful with that, okay? Yes, you will be greeted by your sister when you pass. Yes. The answer is yes. But it's best to pass when it's time for you to pass, and don't try to make that time pass. Don't try to make the time that you're going to pass now. Okay? It will happen when it's time to happen. And it's better when it happens naturally. Okay? I like the connection of a medium. It's deeper. I agree with you. So much deeper, isn't it? Yay, we're gonna do an astrology reading. Did you guys know astrology is like my favorite type of reading? Even if it's a death reading, astrology death reading, which is when I look at a person that has died and I look at their birth chart and their death chart, and I can tell you about what was going on for them at the time of their death, what was the meaning of their death, what's the broader impact, what's the big picture of their death, and how that impacts you. So that's my favorite types of readings are astrology, especially astrology death readings. I am the only person in the world that I know does it. Okay. How do I know which service is best for me? Can you read me to help decide? Probably not in this space. I'm connected to I think it's 5 platforms at the same time. So no, I can't read you in this space. How do I know what service best serves me? Depends on your intention. Depends on your intention. If you want a reading, you get a reading. If you want coaching, you get coaching. Just depends on your intention. Take time to read the descriptions. It will help. Do we create a blueprint for our lives before we come to the human world? Sort of. That's your astrology chart. Which is why, we set a due date for babies, right? We'll say baby's due on this day. Baby shows up 2 weeks early. Baby doesn't come till 2 weeks later, right? Okay, so it's just yeah, okay, right? Okay, baby will be here when baby gets here, okay, and that's based on their astrology chart. I think it's hilarious that we try to predict it. Same thing goes for death. We try to predict that too, but they'll die when it's time for them to die. We can't make it happen faster. Well, we can, but when it's time, they will pass. Does astrology tell us how we will die? Yes, it does, but it won't tell you when. Okay? It will tell you how you will likely die. Yeah, if you want to know. Some people want to know, some people don't want to know. I don't tell it unless you ask. I won't tell you unless you ask. And sometimes it's just as simple as, you'll get sick and die. You'll have something, in your bloodstream, or you'll have a growth or something, or you'll have a stroke or a heart attack or something. And it could happen next week. It could happen 30 years from now, right? So you just never know. And when is harder to predict. We can predict other things of when, but predicting your death when and how old you'll be or whatever, I don't think we're supposed to know, because it would make us not live our lives correctly now. Okay. So my son died. I don't know why. He was autistic. Autopsy showed no cause of death. Can you tell? Okay, so your son died. He was autistic. There was an autopsy, but they weren't specific enough about the cause of death. Yep, I can probably tell in the astrology death chart what was influencing that at the moment, especially if it was en natural. If he took his own life, I might see a lot of mental health problems going on at the time. Okay? So yeah, it's different. Okay? Is a soul contract similar to an astrology chart? Actually, what the difference is, here's the thing, Jennifer, is that the idea of soul contract came from astrology. Because in astrology, we believe generally that we agree to come to this earth for certain soul purposes, and we agree to that before we are born. So that's what creates our astrology chart, and our astrology chart is based on those agreements. So and a soul contract is when you say with someone else, okay, so you're going to come and show me what love isn't. And then you over here, you're going to tell me what love is. Okay? And these are good people, challenging people in our lives, and everything in between. Okay? Love relationships, family members, all of that. Okay? All of it. So a soul contract is not similar to an astrology chart, but it comes from astrology. Astrology An astrology natal chart is your chart based on your birth, based on your life. And then if you, let's say you had a spouse and you said, do I have a soul contract with my spouse? I could look at your natal chart and your spouse's natal chart and say yes or no. I can tell you if you're twin flames. I can tell you if you're soulmates. That's a synastry reading, and that's what you're looking for there. Okay, and so yeah, so that's pretty much how that's. I think I've answered your question. I have often wondered if it's possible to compare a due date and actual birth. There are some parts of astrology of some people that kind of look at that, Eve. Um, but it seems to be a matter of belief. Okay. Like, I believe that babies will come whenever they're meant to come. That's what I believe. And some people believe that maybe there's, oh, you know what it is? Human design. Human design will sometimes look at the due date. That's what it is. And human design is based on astrology. Okay. You might want to check out that. Check out human design, Eve. Hey, I had a reading back now. Oh, hi, Sarah. It doesn't show your name. Hi, Sarah. Oh, my. Okay. Well, I was like, you had a reading. Like, I thought, forget it. I didn't realize it was you, Sarah, until, yeah. So, obviously. So, I'm glad that I could be here to answer your questions, my friends. I'm glad I could be here to be doing this with you all. Um, I think this is a lot of fun. I like doing this. And I hope on Sunday you'll catch my live free readings in Zoom. You might want to register for that. It's in the events area of our group here. Um, and I'll be doing free live mediumship readings. Not a full reading, just little minis. Um, um, in sort of a gallery style. Okay. If you've ever seen um, John Edwards, or I don't know. I think what's his name does it too. Tyler Henry. Tyler Henry. Um do you ever get a, what is this question? Do you ever get a person who asks you a question? Do you feel anything, or have you felt anything weird? You mean like in this? Or yeah, sometimes I sense there's like, especially in Zoom when we're face to face, or in person, people ask me questions or come to me for readings, and I know that they're hiding something. Isn't it hilarious when they try to hide something from a reader? I'm just like, why are you doing that? So strange. It's so strange. The details are on the page. I'll reshare the event, but the event is listed in events. Look at the pinned thing at the top. All the events are listed in a pinned thing at the top of the group. Okay? It says exactly that it lists all the events, but you're looking for mine, which would be called free mediumship readings. You want to get yourself registered and follow the Zoom link that is emailed to you. Okay. Hopefully this time, I did like a free astrology thing the other day, not too long ago, and I had problems with Zoom bombers. So hopefully I don't have that problem again. What a pain in the butt. Like, they don't have something better to do. Anyway, hackers, scammers. Be careful out there, friends, and take care of yourself. Um, and um, take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Love to look at your astrology chart for you. Love to do a synastry about you and your spouse, or you and your partner. Hi, Nikki, Soul Portraits by Spirit. I'm glad that you enjoyed the information. I'm glad you're here. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you for commenting and interacting. You also are a big part of the fun I'm glad you're here. It helps make the whole thing fun. So it's good to have you. See you next time. See you next month. Bye bye.